they took us into a room, and then I looked around, I looked up to my husband and said, this is more than $100 a person, because we were going to splurge and do $100 per person, right? 100 Singapore dollars, which is, I don't know what it's like in the US, probably about $70, right? And so we sat down, and their first course, and there was like 10 courses, was caviar and truffle just sitting on a plate and with gold sprinkled, right? Gold sprinkled over the top, right? And I looked at him and I went, okay, we've just paid for our first course. What is going on? He goes, because my husband speaks Japanese. And so anyway, he spoke to the waiter, and the waiter goes, yes, yeah. And then he walked away, and then, but he thought he said something else, and he came back about 3 courses in and said to my husband, I'm so sorry, but it's $1,000 per person. We all just looked at each other, went, okay. So the kids go, it was the funniest thing, because my son does not eat mushrooms. He hates mushrooms. And he goes, I promise you, I will eat all the mushrooms on my plate.
That's a good kid right there. Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. So glad that you're here to listen to another fantastic guest. Yes, I said it again. We have another fantastic guest on the show today. I am very excited to talk with Paula today, a travel creator and fellow podcast host. So welcome to the show, Paula. And if you wouldn't mind telling the listeners, who are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Paula Barnes, and as you can tell by my accent, I'm Australian. Although I live in Asia, and basically my whole life is travel. I have been living in Asia for 19 years, and although I go back and forwards to Sydney, Asia is really my home. I have a podcast, like Bill said, that is all about travel. And I also have a website called Truly Expat Travel, and I host trips. I host over 50s female trips. That's me in a nutshell.
Wonderful. And so tell the listeners, what is your podcast? You said it's travel, but what is yours more focused on?
Okay, so mine is focused on expats. So it's not really moving to a country, but it's about locals. Well, they're locals now, right? Because they're expats, telling us about their hidden gems, favorite restaurants, the basic stuff, but also in-depth stuff, why they got there or how they got there, why they love it so much, and why you should visit, and some kind of unusual places to go. I like that off the beaten track stuff as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And what made you decide to do yours?
My podcast?
Yes.
So I have been a travel creator for the past, 8 years. And I used to just talk about expat, just expat life in general, until one day someone said to me, you travel so much, why don't you just talk about travel? And so the blog then turned into social media, then turned into a podcast. So I was a guest a few times and love a chat. That's one thing that you'll get to know about me, is that I do love a chat. And that's why I started hosting Truly Expat Travel, because I can combine the love of travel with talking to really interesting people and to talk, because that's what I do best.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very good at it. I love it. I love chatting with you. I feel like we could probably talk for hours, and at least we get some time with you today.
Yep.
So you've been doing your podcast for, has it been almost a year? version of, or whatever, this podcast?
Yeah, because I had a podcast before, and that was going for a year and a half, which was talking to expats in Singapore, because that's where I was living at the time, about a whole heap of different guests. And what I then realized is that it doesn't really line up with my business anymore. So I then went off on my own and started to host about travel about a year ago. It was June last year. So we're almost at a year.
Wow. Well, congratulations on almost getting to that year mark. You mentioned the name of the podcast, but where can people find you, your website, any socials, any of that stuff?
So you can find me everywhere. So unfortunately for some, so you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on everywhere that you listen to your podcast. You can find me on the internet under trulyexpattravel.com. You can find me on social media, on all types of social media, from TikTok, unfortunately. And also you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, kind of everywhere.
Excellent. And it's all pretty much the same everywhere you go. Truly Expat Travel.
Yeah, so it's only Truly Expat Travel, but it's truly, except for when I'm doing the podcast, obviously, because you can throw a podcast in the end of it. But apart from that, yeah, I'm Truly Expat Travel.
Excellent. So I hope everyone does follow you and go and check out what you're doing. And of course, I'll have everything in the show notes as well. So
Thank you.
I had mentioned I'm planning to ask you, and so now's the time I'll do that.
Mhm.
How did travel become a thing in your life? When I know things are different in the States and overseas, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, families tend to take a relatively big trip at least once a year over there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess when you're going so far away, you tend to have one big trip. But I guess for me, it's a little different. I had actually never visited anywhere outside of Australia until I was about 17, when my dad took me back to where he was from, which he was born in Italy. So I did a big trip for 3 months over summer when I was 17 with him. And then it just sparked something in me that I realized, wow, there's a big world up there, and it's much bigger than Australia is. And so I really didn't start traveling till I was 21, and I set off to live abroad with the intention was to live abroad. I did a whole summer over in Europe, where my boyfriend at the time came over, kind of proposed to me and said, if you come back, we'll marry, and one day we'll come back. And so we did. We got married young. And when just before his 30th birthday, he came to me with a proposal to say, I've had this short stint in Asia. Would you like to come with me? And we had 3 kids by then. And it just hasn't stopped since then, I guess.
Wow. Do you remember between the time of being 17 to being 21, do you remember, like, did those 4 years like just kill you because you wanted to get out and travel badly, or was it like just kind of planning?
It did. It was basically, once so my brother was traveling a lot at the time, and he was living over in Europe when we went when I was 17, and then he went to the States when I was 20. And I think it wasn't until I was 20, when he'd just come back from Canada, that I was like, I want to do what he's doing. I want to go and I want to travel the world. At the time, I thought I wanted to backpack, but I realized I'm really not a backpacker. I thought I had this illusion in my head that I was going to have my backpack and I was going to travel all these countries. But yeah, I'm definitely not a backpacker, and hostels are really not my thing. But I did travel. I did the whole hostel thing when I was 21. And then again, just before we got married, when I was 22, we did Asia. And it just, after I started, I just couldn't stop. That's pretty much the way my life's been since then.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that, but I think, yeah, that's understandable. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's just, rather than dipping our toes in the water, let's just dive right in. And I'll ask you, and you can take this any way you'd like to. Every guest takes it a little bit differently. But I will ask you, Paula Barnes, where have you been?
Wow, where do I start? So for me, my life has been in Asia for the past 19 years. I've just literally moved from Singapore back to Hong Kong. Lived in Taiwan. That was our first stint, what I was telling you about. We were there for 6 months. And then from there, we went to Hong Kong. Then we went to Korea. Then where did we go? Japan, back to Hong Kong. Then off to Malaysia. The kids then moved to Australia to boarding school. So my first 2-3 years was really going back and forwards to there, not really traveling as much. It's just mainly back and forwards from Sydney to Malaysia. Then to Singapore. I just spent 8 years in Singapore, and now I'm back in Hong Kong. I say I'm back in Hong Kong. It's literally been 1 week, and I'm already here in the US. So I don't know. It's a bit different this time. Got 3 older kids. They all live in Australia. So I do spend a lot of time there. My eldest just got back from Ireland. So I travel literally 80% of the year. I spend most of my time traveling through Asia and Europe, and my two most traveled destinations. But now I'm stepping foot into Africa. I've just got a girls' trip happening to Morocco, and now I'm in the US. So I don't even know where to start. Like, I've been everywhere, almost
Yeah.
everywhere.
You have been all over the place. Do you remember anything specific from that trip when you visited you said it was visiting your brother, right? In Italy back in the day?
Yeah.
Like
I
what was it that stood out to you that was like, wow, this is cool?
Yeah, I think when you're 17 and you've never traveled outside of Australia, and you go with your father who also really hadn't been back to Italy in such a long time, that the whole trip, the 3 months that we spent, 1 month was traveling, 2 months were in a little town in Italy. I do remember the 2 months in Italy. I didn't want to go back there. It was a tiny town. No one spoke English. No one really was over the age of 100. It just felt like, to me at 17, it felt like 100. They're probably my age now. But it
Right,
was,
right.
for me, it was just boring. Like, I thought, this is not travel. This is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to explore the world. So I think when my brother came back and showed me photos of where he'd been and what he'd done, I was like, that's the sort of travel I want to do. I want to experience it like that. But it's funny because I've done a whole 360, and now Italy is my favorite place in the world, and the little town my dad's from is just so special because it is so little, with lots of older people, and it's so traditional that I am looking to buy property over there because I love it so much. So it's what you love. I guess where I'm coming from is what you love at 17 isn't necessarily what you end up loving at the age of 50.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah, and I think travel changes for us as we get older too. Unfortunately for me, travel didn't start till I was already older, and so I don't think I'm changing very much, probably from what I love as it is now. But yeah, I get that. I mean, when you're younger, you want more excitement, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the one thing that so for me, solo travel is mostly what I do, but I have only just started doing this the last 5 years, because that trip when I was 21 scarred me a little bit, because I had traveled to Wales by accident. It was back in the day where there was no GPS, there was no maps and phones. It was just the hotel gave me a map, and that's the map that I was using. Kind of went in the wrong direction. If anyone's been to the UK, they're going to realize how bad my direction. I'm very directionally challenged, because I was supposed to go up north towards Peterborough, and I ended up in the complete opposite direction in Wales. So I got there and I was jet lagged, and I was trying to find um, back then it was a hole in the wall, like an ATM. And I got money out, and I got chased down the street by a group of guys, and they were saying awful things that they wanted to do to me. And so I went into like a door, and it happened to be a Airbnb, and just stayed there the night and didn't move. And it kind of made me realize that solo travel is not my thing. Back then, that's what I thought. I just hated it. I didn't want to be there. I was like, oh my God. And now, all these years later, it is my preferred way of travel. I travel probably 95% of the year traveling solo. Like, I'm here at the moment solo, because it's just different at this age. And I think you got to be brave. Everyone has to be a little bit brave, because there's nerve-wracking things. I'm not going to lie. You get into a car and you're driving on the wrong side of the road. That's scary. Or you get on a train, and you realize you're in the wrong direction in a foreign country, and that's scary. There's so many things that do scare you, but I think as you get older, you need to have one scary incident at least once a month to keep you going. Like, they're the travel stories. All that stuff where go in the wrong direction, which I do all the time, still to this day, even with a GPS. is what makes travel for me so important. It's because it's not always going to be scheduled, or the people that you meet on the road are people when you're traveling solo, that's when you meet people, because people come and talk to you when you're I think they feel sorry for me when they're talking to me, because I think when I'm with someone, it's intimidating going up to someone that's got in a group of 2 or 3 or 4, but if there's someone on their own, it's easier to come up and speak to me. So, I
Yeah.
forgot I forgot where I was going with this story.
I don't know, but it's okay. Yeah, that's no. I think you're right, and I haven't really done the only solo travel that I've really done has been when it's like a specific destination to visit someone.
Mhm.
So I haven't really done true solo travel, just getting out there by myself and exploring.
Yeah.
But I do think that I would very much enjoy it, and I probably will start doing some of that in the near future.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it, and not that I do enjoy again, because all of my travel has been with someone or with my family, I do enjoy being able to share those things with someone else. But I'm also cool with. Yeah, I was lucky enough. I was lucky that my wife and I were pretty much similar in our travel habits, and so we got along very well traveling. But it is also cool to be able to just do what you want and
Mm.
not have to worry about someone else just being dragged along because this is not what they want to do or whatever.
Yeah, I think having the choice, right? And I guess that's why I started these I started these group trips, because I realized at the age of 50, much more women want to travel, but they're scared to do it on their own. And so I think what I would like to do, well, I don't think it, I know that's what I like to do, is that I like to get a group of women and show them how to travel solo, show them that there's women out there that, that have the same interests as you, that we can explore the world together. And so quite often I will go to a destination first, which I did with Morocco, and then now I'll bring a group of women out there, and it's super exciting to experience that with other women as well, and even with my family. Like every year we have one big trip together. We went to Japan last year, so I think this day and age we have the opportunity to travel all different types, especially as women, because that 17-year-old wasn't allowed to even travel to the beach on her own, because back then the town that my dad is from wasn't as safe as it is kind of now, because you've got phones. You don't have back then. I didn't have anything, and it was crime rate was probably a lot higher than it is now in Calabria. I could be wrong, but that's what it felt like. So I think we now have the opportunity to travel any type of way, whether it's solo, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with a group of people. And tours are an amazing thing as well, because you don't have to, if you've never traveled before and you really want to, that's the first way to dip your toe into it. Because with tour groups, doesn't matter what tour group it is, you've got an itinerary there and you don't have to think of anything except for what to pack, which I love.
Yeah, pretty fantastic. And you're always, I think, I've never done like a group tour like for a full trip,
Yeah.
but I've done enough like smaller tours while I've been in places. And I think you pick up information that you never would from the internet or from whatever. Sometimes you get to try some really cool restaurants and places that you would never find on your own. And because sometimes maybe they get exclusive access to certain things, or they have deals with certain restaurants or whatever. And yeah, I think it's really cool. And I my one suggestion, not that we're tips and tricks or anything, but the one suggestion I would have to piggyback off of what you said is if you are a first time traveler and you do get into a group tour type of thing like that, try to pick an itinerary that is not too jam packed, because I
Yeah.
know that there have been some of those that they try to get as much in as they can over the course of 3 or 4 days or whatever it is, and you just feel like you're just going one place to the next to the next to the
Mm.
next, and it's a whirlwind, and then you're exhausted. And
Yeah.
so maybe something a little more spread out that takes a little longer, may cost a little more, I don't know, but probably more worth it, especially for a first timer.
You have hit the nail on the head. It's all about that slow travel, right? And it's about really going deep into a destination. Instead of going to do a tour of Europe, 10 days, 10 countries, do 10 days in a country, because I think you get a lot more out of it. You have the luxury of not being so tired because you're jumping in and out of buses. But if you and I understand if you've not traveled much before, if you only got one trip a year that you can do and you want to jam everything in, it's hard for me to say because I'm have the luxury of being able to travel quite a bit. I just don't think you would appreciate it as much if you do have to get in and out of that bus all the time. You know, you really won't. And you get to know the people better when it's a 10-day, say it's 10 days in one city, you really get to know the people on the bus a bit better because you're not jumping in and out and you're not tired, you're not grumpy, you don't want to put your headphones on and look out the window because that's all you seem to be doing. You actually get to experience the city, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the reason why I like a cruise for what it is, but that's part of the reason why I don't really care so much for cruises. They wouldn't be my first choice typically,
Yeah.
unless it's just I just want to kick back and relax and not worry about a thing for a few days. But otherwise, like, what is it to stop in a place that you've never been before and you get like 4 hours to explore? That's not exploring.
Yeah.
You don't get any taste of anything. You get pretty much what they want to show you,
Yeah.
and it's not a real taste of where you are. And so that for me, that's not my favorite thing in the world
Mm.
because of something like that. You just don't get to see enough and experience enough.
Yeah, do you know, I have to tell you, I've never been on a cruise. I've well, I did an overnighter in Halong Bay, but that's not really a cruise. I've never had the interest of going on a cruise, not saying that there's anything wrong with them. It's just never been my mode of travel, and plus I'm scared of going out in the in the ocean. I've watched Titanic way too many times.
Yeah, I think if I did another one, I might do like a European river cruise, maybe. That
Yeah.
seems just a little bit more laid back, and you really get to see the
Yeah.
architecture, the sights, and maybe get to spend a little bit more time in
Mhm,
places.
mhm.
But other than that, I think I'm good on cruise. My son loved when we went out. It was his favorite thing we've ever done, and he
Ah,
hasn't been all over with us, but we've been around
yeah.
the States quite a bit, and we've been Costa Rica, whatever, and that was his favorite was just the cruise ship, which was just crazy. And he's 25, and it's
I was gonna say, yeah, I heard that so many times, like, my niece and nephew, they love cruising. My sister, she is a cruiser, like, she's been on 40-something cruises, and that's the only way she travels. We are chalk and cheese, like, she says it's just the best thing because she gets a taste of it, and then she can always go back to a place, but I don't think she ever goes back to those places. That's, I don't well, I shouldn't say that. She'll probably hate me for saying that, but I think it's just an excuse for the way that she travels, but she just loves it. She loves to not have to worry, and she just unpacks once. That's the one thing she says. She just unpacks once, and then she doesn't have to worry about it, and she's got something on that because unpacking and packing isn't the best thing when you have to travel, but I don't mind it. I've kind of got it in pack now that I try to pack as light as I can. I come here with an oversized bag, but generally speaking, I have a light bag and I try and mix and match my clothes so I don't have to unpack so much and just unpack for the day. But for me, slow travel is the way to go. If I can get in a car like I did last year, I spent a month in Italy just driving around Sicily. If I can get in a car and do that, I love that. But it's scary. It's so scary. Like just driving on the wrong side of the road, and especially those tiny little towns in Italy where okay, I'm going to tell you now, Google Maps lies. They lie. They tell you to go down a street that doesn't exist, or they tell you to go down a street that's a dead end, or is steps, or off a cliff. Do not believe Google's Maps. Just, t- and some of those streets are so narrow that there is no way my car would ever fit down there. So from that perspective, that's really scary, but it's also so nice to get on the open road and just have to decide, okay, so today I'm going to go to this town and explore, you know?
Yeah. One thing I found driving in other countries, I found that Waze,
Yeah.
WAZE, is a better app to use than Google Maps in most places. It's great in the States.
Is it? Okay, because
Yeah.
it's big in Asia. Like it's really big in Asia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm glad. So it's even in Australia, it's only really been the last few years that they've brought people are using Waze now. But I was told, was it Google that bought Waze? I think it was Google.
Possibly. I think you might be right, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why their apps are similar now. I like Waze because Waze has people giving you advice. Like
Yeah, it's
there's
very social.
there's police coming up, or there's a ditch in the road, or there's a traffic. That I like because then you
Yeah.
you kind of know it's more realistic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you'll find, and maybe that's part of their partnership, is that Google Maps now is starting to do a much better job of, not that I need to know that there's a police officer up ahead because
Yeah.
I'm not speeding,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
me,
yeah.
but it is nice to know that, yeah, it works really well. Matter of fact, I've switched back and forth between Apple Maps and Google does a much better job with that. But I
I agree.
digress.
Yes.
You should be safe to use that in the States, though, if you need it. But,
Oh, good.
and it's funny you say, because I think you drive on the wrong side of the road. And it's funny that because we say that in the States, and then to hear you say that was just, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think with driving in general, I think as long as I don't drive stick or don't drive manual or whatever you want to call it in your side of the world, is I'm okay. It's just you know what? Can I just this is really exciting for me. I know it's probably not for you because you're in the States, but I just got into a Tesla that's a driverless Tesla. That really threw me because that I've never seen it before. I've seen it in shows and stuff like that, but I've never seen it firsthand. So I that freaked me out. I gotta say that freaked me out.
I'm sure. How what like
Scary.
is that a rental, or is that like that was like an Uber?
It was an Uber.
Oh wow.
That was so funny. It was so weird. But yeah, I just thought
Like
I'd have
fully automated with no driver?
the driver was there, but he wasn't touching
Okay.
anything. He was actually
Okay.
just pointing to things. And I was like, don't you have to put your hands on the wheel? And he's
Oh
like,
my
no,
goodness.
not at all. He's down here, I can show you this is where this is. And he was showing me like things that I can do in the town. I was like, I feel like you need to put your hands on the wheel.
It would at least make me feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's another brand of driverless vehicle, totally driverless vehicle, that they just had to recall a bunch of them because one, I can't remember where it was,
Yeah.
but there was a flood, and thankfully there was no passenger inside, but it tried to cross a flooded road, and it got swept away and went into the water. Yeah, so
Oh, wow. Okay.
some work to be done on those ones, I
Yeah,
guess.
exactly. Exactly.
So Paula, where was your favorite place that you've been in the world? What's your favorite destination that you've been to?
I get asked this all the time, and can I tell you, it really depends on the mood that I'm in.
And I never asked this question.
Always get asked, and I always get asked, "What's the favorite country that you've lived in?" For me, if I talk about historical, I still think Italy, like little romantic places like Verona just always make me think, like, it's so old. You're standing here and this church is older than anything Australia's ever thought of, right? Because we're so young. So for me, Verona in Italy has always been precious. I guess it's because it's my heritage. But if I look at somewhere recently that was been my favorite, like I think Morocco, it threw me for a sixer. I think having a picnic in the Sahara Desert and all of a sudden a friendly ostrich comes and has a picnic with you, you just can't beat that. It was like just amazing. But if you look at somewhere like, culture and food, you can't go past Japan. Like I lived in Tokyo, but going to these little towns outside of Tokyo are just so beautiful. The people are so friendly and they're just so picturesque kind of thing. But if you look at somewhere tropical, you can't go past Australia. I think we're pretty lucky. We've got some amazing beaches. So as much as I say, like I haven't done much of Australia compared to the rest of the world, I think Sydney is kind of special, especially for a tourist. And I'm going to be very controversial here because I'm going to say Sydney has the prettiest harbour in the world. It really does. It's just lights up at night, and it's during the day. It's just so blue, and you can do so much around the beaches in Sydney. I know Queensland, we have lots of beautiful beaches as well, but I'm really partial to Sydney because that's where I grew up.
What do you think other people would say if they differed with your opinion?
I think everyone thinks their city is the most beautiful harbour in the world. I think everyone feels the same way, but I don't know anyone that's been to Sydney and hasn't loved it. You know, I think it just depends on what time of year you go. Like if you're going to go to like a time when it's super busy around Christmas, it does have a different feel, and it's a little too busy. But if you go in spring or in autumn, and the weather is warm enough to go to the beach, it's beautiful. But I think everybody feels that their city is very cool because you know exactly what it has to offer. You're not just scratching the surface level, you're going deep into what it has. So I think everyone feels the same way, don't they?
I don't know about that. I'm just thinking about this, and I'm thinking. I think a lot of people. I'm sure that there are a lot of people that feel that way, but I think there's a lot of people that just there's something about being away and something about travel that
Yeah.
romanticizes things too. And I think that, like, for me personally, I've never been to Sydney. I think I mentioned that my daughter and her boyfriend should be moving to Australia later this year,
Yeah.
not to Sydney.
Yeah.
To your chagrin, but I'm sure that once I go to visit them, I'm going to make them take me up there for at least a day trip. But I think I probably would fall in love with it.
You
And
will.
yeah, and not that I have a harbor necessarily here in Pittsburgh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but we have the rivers and we have some beautiful picturesque scenery and stuff. And I do love what we have here, but I think I do like being in Santorini. That's the most one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been in my entire life, and Pittsburgh, I'm sorry, does not compare. So
But do you also think that I think because I've lived away from Sydney for the last 19 years and I go back regularly, but I don't live there. I don't have a like I have a base there, but I don't have a permanent base there. I think I appreciate it more than if I was living there day to day. You know, I see the beauty in it because I see it through a different lens where most of my friends are, working 9 to 5. They don't, and the one thing about Sydney is that we have a culture of getting up early and exercising, which I love. And the nightlife isn't as big as it used to be when I was younger, which suits me to a T because that's kind of my age and where I'm at now. So I think I see it through a different lens, and I feel that about every country I've lived in as well. Lots of people always ask me what's my favorite country. It's the country I'm living in at the time because I really I understand I'm not there forever. So I go and I really discover the beauty of each country. I loved Singapore. If you haven't been to Singapore, I have a whole destination website on it called Singapore Truly, and I just focus on Singapore because it's used as a stopover, and it shouldn't be. It should be a destination because it's small, but it has so much to offer. I could probably talk about Singapore all day.
yeah, well, that's very cool. That reminds me, like, I had a similar experience when we were going to Machu Picchu in South America. So we were on our way to Peru, and well, we were in Peru, and a lot of people were telling us that Lima in Peru is sort of one of those places. Like,
Yeah.
nobody goes there as a destination. You go through Lima to get to somewhere else. And we purposely planned like 3 days there and absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it, and would probably go back. And for a place that people said, yeah, there's nothing there, you just go, it's the airport and go through. And so glad that we didn't. So I get that.
Yeah,
And then
that's the whole slow travel thing, right? Is like I always tend to, if I'm doing a long haul, I try to stop in that destination instead of transiting for like an hour or two. I tend to try and stay there for at least a few days before I hop on and go to the next destination, because that's the problem is when you're transiting Hong Kong as well. Quite a lot of people just stay there for 24 hours, and then that's Hong Kong's got so much to offer. Like there's so much to do in such a populated small country like Hong Kong.
yeah, I've heard both sides of that. I had a friend who was there many, many years ago who said that he just would never go back there again. But I've also had people who absolutely love it. People who have moved away and wanted to move back or are moving back because they love it so much there. So a place
Yeah.
that, like, my first experience hearing about it was again from my friend that had his experience, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll cross that off my list. And
Yeah.
the more I've heard about it since then, it's really worth giving it a shot. So
It's so true. I think you should always give some at some destinations a second a chance, because if I took my own advice the first time I went to Hong Kong, gosh, now I'm showing my age, 30 years ago, I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated the smells. I hated that it was so crowded. I hated that it was overpopulated. There's everything. I hated everything about it. And you look at me now and I spent 6 years living there and now I'm back and I love it. I love the smells. I love the high overpopulated people and the foods and the craziness, and it's always live and full on. It's not a destination you go to relax. That's for sure.
So you've moved there, but you're moved back there, but not to relax. Well, I guess if you're living there, it's a little different, but yeah. So tell me this. So if you and I are sitting down at the bar drinking a whiskey neat
Mhm.
and just chatting it up, and we realize that we're both passionate about travel, what are some of like the must tell stories and experiences that you've had anywhere in the world?
I would say that okay, so I think probably start with that a lot of times people say to me, "Well, why do you travel so much on your own when you've got a family and blah, 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 blah?" Well, I would say that what changed my mind was that when I first went to Italy on my own, this was about 8 years ago. No, it was before COVID. I didn't even know how long COVID was. I think that's 6 years ago. So maybe it was 7 years ago, and I traveled to Lake Como on my own, and I was scared and I was nervous, and I got on the train and went in the wrong direction and then got back on the train and then missed my stop and then got back on the train, and by the time I got to the hotel, I was in tears thinking, "This is the worst thing I've ever done in my life." And I took a big bag and those cobblestone streets, like you learn a lot in that. I learnt a lot in that first time on my own. But I think what it taught me was that if you can brave it out and make all these mistakes and then look back and think, wow, that was so cool, then you realize traveling isn't so scary, you know? I think that time was probably the scariest I've ever had, and also when I drove in Sicily, that there was only one time in Sicily. Actually, I only cried twice. I think that's a pretty good average for me when I was driving, because I drove down this street and my GPS, that's why I said Google Maps lies, is because it took me down a street that had stairs, so I couldn't drive down that stairs, and to turn around was to turn on the side of like a cliff. It was like a cliff, and so I felt like, "What the hell do I do?" And it was such a tiny little narrow street, and so I got on my phone, had a bit of a cry to my husband, FaceTimed him, showed him exactly where I was, and he was going, "It's okay, we can do this together." And I was like, "I can't believe I'm doing this." But I did. I did it. I did it. I turned around and then I went and found a place to park, and I realized those sort of destinations and those sort of trips that they really make you, like, they give you confidence that you didn't know you had. There's a lot of times where I've always relied in the past on my husband to drive, or I've relied on friends to direct me. But doing it on your own, there's that self achievement that you get, that you think, you know what? I can do this. I can do this anywhere, almost anywhere. There's some places I think I still don't know I'll go to on my own, but there are a lot that you can. You can, as long as you have your wits about you, you can, like, don't show, you've got a whole lot of cash in your hand, and don't, and this is one thing I always tell, and this is, I know it's not a tips kind of conversation, but I always say to people, if you're going to travel with a, not your own credit card, but travel with a card, like a travel card, because then you can put on to that card how much you use each day, rather than having a credit card that you could lose or someone steal or scam. That has been my number one savior, because I have been scammed, and it's not fun being stranded with one when your credit card has maxed out by some random stranger when you're traveling on your own. So that would be something that I would tell people quite often.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Where was that?
That was actually in Malaysia before I'd even moved there. It was a long time ago, and it was back before you could even have anything on your phone. And so someone had, I think my understanding was is that when I got the money out of the ATM, someone had scammed it there, and had pretty much, by the time I got to the hotel, they had taken out all the money. Like, they'd taken out all the money. And I wasn't traveling with that much, but still taking out everything in your credit card, that was scary. So I had to ring my mom. How embarrassing. I had to ring my mom and ask her to transfer wire money. That was back when you used to wire money to me, so that I
My
could get.
gosh.
Yeah, I know. It was quite scary. But you know what? We did the same thing happened to my husband and I when we were traveling Europe backpacking the very first time, and someone had done the same thing, but we went everywhere and looked for somewhere, you can't do this anymore, but looked for somewhere that did the click click. You know those old, where they used to put your credit card in and they used to just print it? They go click
Yes.
click.
Yep.
Yeah, so we had to try and find one of those so that we knew that the money that we had been wired would be there tomorrow, but it wouldn't be there that day. So we had to find a place that would be able to accept that rather than the new fashion that was coming in at the time where computers were able to swipe your actual card. That's how old, ancient I'm sounding. So that was scary. That was really scary. And that triggered me to always have money in other places because you never know when that's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. Thank goodness. I mean, knock on, I don't even have wood around me, but I don't know why that's a saying anyway, knock on wood. I don't know if you have that, but yeah, thank goodness that's never happened to me. But yeah, I can't even imagine. And especially if you are traveling solo, like, yeah, that would be brutal. And like you said, back in the day, it was not so easy. Like now somebody can just PayPal you or whatever the money thing is. But yeah, that's crazy.
But I think also now most people have one or two cards. You don't just rely on the one card that you used to do back then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like you had mentioned like travel cards, like yeah, they're like dummy cards, sort of, right? Like the number is produced for you to be able to use during that time, and then it just goes away or whatever.
Yeah.
There's also cards that are like encrypted in a way that the number is one use every single time.
Yeah, Revolut does that. So that's my travel card that I use all the time, and I have a virtual one and I also have a physical one. And if I use the virtual one and I'm using it online, the number will change like the CVC. So what is CVV number? It will always change, so that nobody could ever use it unless you have your phone on you, which is clever.
That's very, very awesome. So take us anywhere. I'm in your hands. You take us anywhere
Okay.
you'd like to take us in your travel journeys that you've had.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with my recent one. So I went to Japan at Christmas. For those who have not been to Japan, I mean it's just beautiful. And at Christmas time, it is a little more special because I guess for Australia we have a hot Christmas, like this. It's always at the beach and whatever. So it's nice to be somewhere where it's cold and go. I know in the US it's different, but generally speaking, we go skiing there. We have been for the last few years, and we go to a place called Hakuba. It is starting to get a little bit more well known now, and I think we've spoken about this before, but I still love it. I still like Hakuba because I think that it's still that villagey feel. And what we tend to do is we fly into a different city each time, and we explore that city before we make our way to Hakuba. And I think for those who have never been to Japan, and people, I don't know I've met anyone who said they haven't liked their time in Japan because there's something there for everyone. You have your sakura season, which was just recently with the cherry blossoms. You have your autumn, which is your fall, where you've got the red and the colors of autumn is just beautiful. The food is something out of this world. I will actually tell you a story about the food. So not last year, the year before, my husband was in charge of organizing all the restaurants when we were traveling. Can I just say he's been taken off that list of being able to, this is not his job anymore, and this is why, right? So he organized for our last night together in Tokyo to spend it at a teppanyaki place. And I love teppanyaki. We all love teppanyaki. So anyway, we rock up there and we are very casually dressed in jeans and T-shirts and jackets and stuff. We walk in and all of a sudden we all look at each other and realize this place is a little fancier than my husband made out it was going to be, because everyone is pretty much in suits and very dressed up to the nines. It was a beautiful place. When I say it was just so pretty inside, they took us into a room and then I looked around, I looked up to my husband and said, this is more than $100 a person, because we were going to splurge and do $100 per person, right? 100 Singapore dollars, which is, I don't know what that's like in the US, probably about $70, right? And so we sat down and their first course, and there was like 10 courses, was caviar and truffle just sitting on a plate and with gold sprinkled, right? Gold sprinkled over the top, right? And I looked at him and I went, okay, we've just paid for our first course. What is going on? He goes, because my husband speaks Japanese. And so anyway, he spoke to the waiter and the waiter goes, yes, yeah. And then he walked away but he thought he said something else and he came back about 3 courses in and said to my husband, I'm so sorry, but it's $1,000 per person. We all just looked at each other and went, okay. So the kids go, it was the funniest thing because my son does not eat mushrooms. Like he hates mushrooms. And he goes, I promise you, I will eat all the mushrooms on my plate.
That's a good kid right there.
But the mushrooms were like those shiitake mushrooms that were so expensive. But it was one of those experiences that we looked at each other and we laughed because what else can you do? You've got to pay the bill. So we were like, okay, what sake do you have? Let's get the best sake out. We might as well splurge and go for the hog. And there was 6 of us, right? Because I've got 3 kids and my son had his partner with him. So I was like, you know what? Sometimes you just got to go with the flow. You just got to. But he's been taken off. He's not allowed to organize restaurants anymore. He's like,
I mean, I hope the meal was incredible, though.
Yeah, it was. Can I just say, probably the best experience of my life. You know, it really was. Even if it was only if it was going to be $100 each per person, that was still going to be the most beautiful kind of experience of my life. But it was next level. The amount of truffle that came out and abalone, which I absolutely hate, but I just had to love it for that night. It was like, yeah, it was very special. And it will be one thing that we always talk about. We always laugh about because we're always like, can you believe that poor waiter came up and he was sweating? Like he was so scared to have to come over and tell us, sorry, I said the wrong number. It's 1,000, not 100.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But yeah, they're the kind of experiences.
Yeah. Do you, let's stay, so I do this a bunch of different ways a lot of the times, and it's just kind of whatever I feel like, I guess. But so unless you have another story or a destination in mind, can you think of any other, while we're on the topic of like funny stories, sometimes they're the harder ones to come up with, like the funny stuff, because I have found, especially through this podcast, that a lot of times the easiest stories to tell, I don't remember if we talked about this offline or not, but I think we did. But the easiest stories to tell a lot of times are the ones that are like the scariest or like the bad things that happen, because they're not necessarily traumatizing, but those like really can stand out and they're much easier to describe. But do you have anything else that you can think of off the top of your head that was just like, this is one of the funniest things that's happened with us traveling, or even just you by yourself with anyone else?
I would say that again in Japan, this year actually on Christmas Day, we were snowboarding in Hakuba. And can I tell you, I do snowboard, but I'm not very good at it. The kids and my husband are great, but I'm not. And there wasn't much powder and it was super, super icy. And so the kids thought it was quite funny to take me down a run that wasn't really my type of run. I should probably be sticking to the beginners, but I went down with them and they were kind enough to stick with me, but I did the most beautiful 360 that you've ever seen in your life. And I did that about 20 times before I landed, and I kind of like bear hugged the guy in front of me. We went down the road. We went down together. I let go and I fell on my back. And I was mortified, but the kids could not stop. They couldn't even pick me up because they were laughing so much. I was so embarrassed. This poor guy, happened to be Australian, and he was trying to teach his poor kid to ski. And here I am hugging him, taking him down with me. And he's like, it's okay, it's okay. I was so embarrassed. But it was 2 things I learned that day. 1 is I can't snowboard. And 2, you just got to laugh, because if you don't laugh, you just cry.
Yeah. Were you So you said you did a 360. Like
Mm.
you weren't trying to do it.
Oh, absolutely not. I just lost my control, complete control, and just went around and around and around until the person in front of me was so close, I just hugged him. And then,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
he
Oh, it
must have,
wasn't in the air. It was on the
no,
ground. You were
it
just
was only, yeah, he must have thought, what the hell is hanging onto the back of me? I just hung onto him. I just hung onto him until I thought, I've got to let go. I got to let go,
Oh
and I
my.
did. But yeah,
In
it
my
was.
mind, I saw you doing this in the air for some reason, like, and I thought, wow, well, that's cool. Then you did like a cool trick, and it wasn't.
No, it was ugly, like ugly in the in every sense of the word. If anyone would have seen me, they would have been like, "You gotta give up. You really
Oh, that's
so."
hilarious.
But yeah.
So, will you strap on a snowboard again someday? Or are you done?
No, you know what? I'll give it another go. I'll give it one more
Good.
go. I'll give it one more go because I gave up. I didn't go for a couple of days because I actually really did hurt my tailbone pretty badly, and I went back because it is fun. Like, it is fun. Like, I do when I am going in the right direction. It is a fun sport to do. I just got to stay in my own lane. I cannot go on a hill. Like, even the year before, the kids thought it was so funny that I couldn't get I couldn't get up. Like, I did slip, like fallen off, and then it was so steep that I just couldn't get back up. Like, to the point where I ended up just sliding on my bum the whole way down. And it's like, you know what? You just got to go with it. I'm sure there's other people in my situation.
Oh gosh, yeah. I wouldn't even. I don't even know if I could do like a what do they call them, a bunny hill or whatever. Yeah, I've never skied. I've never
Oh,
skated. I've never
okay.
nothing. So maybe someday. I'm not saying I won't. But
Exactly, because you're never too old to try things. I just think, like, I'm really afraid of heights, like really afraid of heights, and I am really trying my hardest to get over that fear. And a number of years ago, I was on a TV program where they take a group of people to a destination. You don't know where you're going, and you just have to do all the activities. And one of them had to be abseiling. So that was the start a few years ago where I was like, you know what? If I can abseil down this hill, which scared the life out of me because the guy that went before me fell. Of course, he fell right in front of me. But I was like, if I can do that, then maybe I can do other stuff as well. So that was the start. That was the start of I did the abseiling, which was super scary. And, thanks to TV, it was all on TV and captured.
nice.
Okay, so if I could do that, I can do anything. So I have lately. I did like a massive zip line in Quebec last year. I went on I was in South Korea just recently, like last month or a month before, and I went on one of those suspension bridges, which normally would freak me out, but I was good. I was actually good. I don't know if I'm ready to jump out of a plane. That I don't know if I can do that. But I am ready to go onto on a hot air balloon. That's gonna be my next quest, I think.
I wish you all the best. I'm not a fan of heights either. What's funny though is I get like I don't even want to walk 3 steps up on a ladder. Like I'm
Yeah.
not good with that. I haven't fallen, I don't think ever, but I just feel like I'm going to.
Mm.
But when we did zip lining in Costa Rica, I had no problem with it, and on the contrary, I absolutely loved it. But I
Ah,
but I also don't think that I don't think I'm jumping out of an airplane anytime soon either.
that's stupid.
So
Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? I don't
my
get it.
so my dad and I can't some other family members, I think they got it in their mind many years ago, many years ago, they were going to do this, and so they did, and I was actually going to go with them, even though I've never been a fan of heights. I was going to
Yeah,
do it if I could have gotten off work. But I just started a job; they wouldn't let me take the day.
yeah.
So they did it, and there was a kid on the plane that had never flown before. So my dad just thought it was the funniest thing because this kid could say like, "I took off in an airplane, but I've never landed in an airplane."
Oh.
But yeah, that's
That
my
would
little
scare me.
flying story. Yeah.
That would scare me. There's not much that scares me. That would scare me. Do you know, for all the travel I do, I'm actually afraid of flying.
Oh my gosh.
But I have some tricks. I can't sit near an airplane, and I can't look at the flight attendant when she's telling you what to do, because then in my head it tells me I need to do that, and I don't want to be that person. So they're the little tricks that I have in my head to say it's okay, it's all right.
Okay.
And also,
My trick is a really strong Bloody Mary before I get on.
I was going to say and also melatonin that puts me to sleep.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of flying. I'm afraid of snoring on the plane, and so that kills me because, especially on a long flight, it's just like I'm so scared to sleep because I'm afraid I'm going to bother people. Even though, like, planes are noisy anyway, and most people nowadays are wearing headphones and noise canceling, and it's still, but that's like my fear.
Well, can I tell you, I've sat many times next to snorers and have never heard them, because when you have your headphones on and you hear the babies screaming in the corner, you don't actually hear, and the noise of the plane, you actually don't hear people snoring.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that makes you feel any better.
I guess it does a little bit. Yeah, I'm interested because it's a place that I absolutely must get to. Vietnam. Tell
Yeah.
me about Vietnam.
Vietnam's one of those places that were always on my bucket list. Like, I always wanted to get to Vietnam, and I love Vietnam, but there's so many other places in Asia that I like better, which surprised me. But in saying that, the Vietnamese people are so lovely. The food is amazing. It's just so busy. If you go to the main cities like Ho Chi Minh or I can't say it now. Why can't I remember the name of the main city?
Is it Ho Chi? Not Ho Chi Minh.
No, not Ho Chi Minh City, up north, Hoi An. So,
Okay.
yeah. So if you go to Hoi An, like any of those major cities, it's so busy, like so, so, so busy. But if you get a chance to go out into the countryside, Halong Bay is so beautiful. Like, it's so peaceful. So we went kayaking through the area in the very early in the morning, so there was no one around, and it's so beautiful. Like, it has to those and also when you look around and there's like all those rice paddies when you're on your way there, it's just so beautiful. It has to be one of the places that it's full of history as well, but there's also a lot of sadness there with all the war. And if you end up doing some tours and things, there's because it's not that long ago. The war was not that long ago, so they still have a lot of memorabilia, a lot of museums devoted to the war. It just, I don't know. I'm conflicted, about Vietnam, because there's beautiful places, but then it's just so busy. If you like a busy city, then you probably, and it's hot. It can be hot, but there's
Yeah.
sweaty.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of going back again to a conference next month, to a different part. So I'll keep you posted on that and let you know whether or not. I've heard so many great stories about other parts of Vietnam if you can get out of the cities. So that's what I'm going to try and do this time.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely let me know, because if I'm going to Australia next year, which is probably the case, it's probably going to be a couple of years before I can get there.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely very, very high on my list. So I just happened to glance down, and I'm not in any hurry. We've got plenty of time, but
Yep.
I can't believe we're creeping up on an hour already.
Oh, wow.
Where else do you have to tell me about that you've been in the world?
Okay, where do you have to go? I think
And tell me your stories and experiences, if you can,
Yeah.
of any of these places.
I think what surprised me the most, if I have to pick somewhere in Asia, that's probably my favorite place in Asia, I would have to say Sri Lanka. And I think Sri Lanka is so underrated. It did have a boom last year. Everyone seemed to have discovered it. But I think for me, Sri Lanka has got the best of both worlds. You've got the scenery, you've got the most beautiful, if you like trains, there is this train ride that goes through the countryside that is just so beautiful. It's so cheap to get on. It's like a bit of an old kind of train, but it's a beautiful scenery. Then what people don't know about Sri Lanka is that not only is there's a lot of tea plantations, a lot of tea comes from there, but also there's a lot of safaris. We went on this. We went on two safaris actually. There was one that had elephants, so we were expecting hopefully to see one or two. We ended up seeing almost 20 elephants, or like we just kept running into elephant after elephant after elephant, and after a while, it's like you just expect, I don't know, it was almost like you were in the middle of a zoo, but you were you weren't patting them, but you were so close to them that you could actually pat them. And then we went on another safari where it was more of the other type of animals. There was elephants there as well, but we were able to see other kind of animals as well. And I think also what people don't, it's so affordable. Like you can go and stay, if you go and stay in places like Kandy or in the major cities, they've got some beautiful, beautiful old, I love that British architecture, you know, that old colonial British architecture that Singapore also has and Malaysia has. There's so much of it there and it's beautiful. I've got to tell you, so there's this hotel that I was so surprised about. We went on, two girls and I went on a tour from the hotel. One of the drivers took us around and was showing us, and he said, "Do you want to have a look at this hotel? I can't think of the name of it at the moment, but do you want to go and have a look at this hotel? It's an old British colonial hotel." And I said, "I'd love to do that. Can we go and have maybe a cup of tea in there?" And he said, "Sure. I know someone that works there. Maybe they can come and show you around." They took us into this area, like they've got like this in the back of the hotel, they've got like this museum with all these famous people from back in the 50s and the 40s and you know, that had visited. And one of them who happened to live there was Prince Philip, you know, like the Queen's, well, the Queen that just passed away, her husband, he actually lived there. And in the middle of this room was his old car. This is
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's so cool. And the Queen had, I think it was Queen Victoria, had her jubilee in that hotel. I was like, this is so random. It was so beautiful. I mean, I do think Sri Lanka is so underrated. And there's quite a few areas there that I believe is like the old Bali, back before Bali became what it is today and overpopulated and kind of, there's just too many hotels and stuff there now, but it's quite rural. And it made me feel like what Bali was in the 80s and the 90s. And I do think that if anyone if there's only one place that you can go to in Asia, I think Sri Lanka is really underrated. And then if you're going to Sri Lanka, then the Maldives is very close, and the Maldives is just beautiful. And you can't go wrong with the Maldives. So that doesn't matter what place that you stay in, because each island has its own hotel on it. So you can either have a traditional, like Maldivian, I think that's what they call themselves. The Maldives hotel, or you can have a big chain. Like we stayed at the W, but there's everything from the Sheraton to the, I don't know, the Marriott's, to every type of hotel chain that you've got there as well. So you can combine those two together if you're ever going to do a trip this far away. I do also think in your lifetime, everyone has to go to India once, at least once, because India is somewhere you either love or you hate. And it doesn't matter which one it is, it draws you somehow, that there's always an experience in India that you'll always remember it for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, tell me your experiences in India. And I've heard it go both ways as far as India goes. So a lot of people have mentioned it on the podcast. More so love India than don't, but I've heard both ways for sure.
I think I've got one foot in each side, because I love India for what it is. There's so much more of it that I'd like to explore. I just don't know if I have it in me at the moment. I spent 1 month in India, the beginning of, not last year, the year before, and it changed my life. That's my third time in India, but this time I went down south. And can I say, if you've never been to India and you just want to put your big toe in, dip your big toe in it, I would say south is so much. It's not as hectic. I find it prettier because there's so much to see. You've got tea plantations, you've got the back, like those back, what are they called? Not back streets, you can get houseboats down the back of Kerala. So it's quieter, it's a lot more scenic, and it's just pretty. Like I really, really enjoyed it. But in saying that, I got so sick. like so sick that for 24 hours, I just could not stop vomiting. And I was on a tour, and I think I took one for the team because no one else on the tour got sick. And they were going to take me up to the hospital. And you know what? I was the most safest. I didn't drink the water. I didn't have any ice in my drinks. I was sterilizing everything. I was being super careful. Everyone else on the trip was drinking and eating, and I'm the one that got sick. But I was so sick that I did, and we caught a train. Now, that is an experience I don't ever want to have again. If you're going to catch a train in India, pay the money for first class or go on one of those beautiful trains. Because honestly, we were with this tour group that went third class or second class, and it was the most horrific thing I've ever had in my life. You know how I said I'm not a backpacker? Well, this was worse than backpacking.
Oh, no.
This was awful. So you have 7 people. So you have 3 on one side and 3 on the other beds, like a sleeper train. And then you have one or 2, I think, you have in the actual hallway, I guess you could call it, through the thing. And I was really sick, like really, really sick. And so I was laying on the bottom bed in the hallway thing. And every 5 minutes, someone with curry came past. And you know what the smell of curry does to you when you're sick? Oh, it was the longest trip of my life. It was awful. It was awful. And I've got a really, really close friend who's from Kerala. And she said to me, you know what? We don't even go to third class. She said, that's horrendous. I don't know why you would think that was a good idea. I was like, I don't know. It was awful. But in saying that, then I spent 2 weeks up north, and we did like the Golden Triangle. And even though it was hectic and full on, the palaces were beautiful, and the hotel, I would say the service in those hotels, like, the Taj Mahal Hotel or the Oberoi, that is the best service you'll ever get anywhere in the world. I will put my hat down to say that I've never been to a hotel that gives you the service like they do. They remember your name. People remember your name when you're walking through the corridor, and they come in and they serve you coffee in bed in the morning. I don't know, it's phenomenal because a lot of them are old palaces that have been converted into hotels. So you go from, I don't know, you walk outside and it's probably the worst homeless situation I've ever seen in my life. And then you walk into these grounds that are just so, I don't know, luxurious and amazing and incredible. It's just 2 worlds collide. That's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can only imagine, like, just the fact of being in an old converted palace, the history, and I imagine it's very ornamental, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's always peacocks in the grounds. I don't know why. It's always peacocks walking around in the ground. It's just so lavish. Like, and you don't even, because they have big walls and gates and stuff, right? And you don't even hear the traffic outside. But I think that's one place that I don't think I'll ever travel on my own as a female traveler. I don't feel, it's not that I don't know, I just don't feel that safe because people stare, they follow you. Doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, there's a lot of, depending on where you are, of course, but there's a lot of, like you said, homelessness and poverty, and even little kids are begging. They're like trying to get money from you or whatever, like from my understanding, and yeah, it's kind of tough.
It's not for I think if you want to travel and if you're a seasoned traveler, then go to India. You'll love it. But if you're not a seasoned traveler and you prefer a resort, don't go. It's too much. It's just too much.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I get that, and I don't know if I'll ever go, but it's one of those that, it's in the back of my mind. So we'll see. So, and I know that so you have an affinity for Italy. Switching gears over toward Europe a little bit, I know you have an affinity for Italy, but where else in Europe is like, that you've had some really wonderful experiences that you could share with us?
You have to go to Malta. I just think Malta is one of those places that is so underrated. I'll give you a fact here. Did you know there's more Maltese in Australia than there is in Malta?
No way.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot migrated to Australia back in the 60s, I think 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so we have so many Maltese. But in saying that, in Malta itself, I don't know why they left because it's beautiful. And a lot of people, if so, a lot of countries or a lot of students that want to learn English will go to Malta to the university there because it's so much cheaper or more affordable to learn at the university there than it is in the US or the UK or Australia because Malta, everyone speaks English. It's actually not that many younger generations speak Maltese. All the education, most of education is taught in English, and they're kind of losing their language, which is really sad, to be honest. But it's easy to get around because everyone speaks English. It surprised me so much for such a beautiful place. That's a small place, I should say, is so beautiful, and it's got so if you like Game of Thrones, I've never watched it, but if you like Game of Thrones, there's a little town there where it's all filmed, and it's just beautiful. It's magical. Like, I can't even it was when I walked in, it felt like I was in a storybook. It was just so pretty and still so traditional. There was loads of weddings going on at the day because it was a Saturday. And if you go in summer, the beaches there are just incredible. If you like crystal blue or jade green water, they've got the blue grotto like they do in Italy. They've got a blue grotto there. There's a lot of partying going on there, but there's also a lot of areas like Valletta or the Three Sisters. You can go on one of the traditional Maltese boats. It's so beautiful. I feel like I didn't spend enough time there last year, and I'd like to go back again because it's truly one of those places that everybody should go to. I think that by far, I prefer that actually, and I'm going to be very controversial here. I prefer that than Greece.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I can't compare the two because I've only been to Greece, but
But if
that's
you loved Greece, you'll love it there.
wow.
You really will. And the food is good. I mean, the food is not as good as the Greek food. That's one thing the Greeks do have going for them. But they've got these like pasticces. You have to try them. They're amazing. And their traditional dish is like rabbit, like a rabbit stew, or ravioli. They're kind of because it's so close to Sicily. I caught a ferry over from Sicily to Malta, which I think people don't realize how close it is.
Wow. Yeah, and it's a place that I don't know that anyone's ever talked about going to Malta on the podcast, doing
You
this over a year. It's possible, but I don't
Yeah.
remember it.
You should. I mean, if you ever when you go back to Europe, I think Malta has to be on your because you can catch a plane from most European hubs. I know you can catch a plane from Italy. I know you can catch one from France because I was in France last year and I ran into someone who was going over to Malta. So there are planes that can because they do have an airport there, but it is a very small city, country. It is and if you stay in Valletta, which is the main part, there's great shopping, lots of cafes. It's a very big cafe culture. They're very, very religious, so there's a lot of churches on a sun. Sorry, there's lots of churches around, and everyone goes to mass on a Sunday, so it's quiet on a Sunday morning. It's a beautiful place, honestly. I really think you should go.
Well, I'll just keep adding stuff to my list. You have a place down on your list that I don't know that I know of, and I think it's pronounced Mauritius.
Mauritius I've been to. Is that what you
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't know that I even know where.
where that is? Yeah, so Mauritius is a little island off Africa. It's not far from Madagascar and not far from Seychelles. So it's very traditionally was Dutch originally. So they've got a very big Dutch culture where I think the dodo bird was last seen in Mauritius before it was extinct. I think in the 70s. I could be wrong with the year or the decade, but it definitely was that. So the language, although I think the language is Afrikaans, and Afrikaan comes from the Dutch language, I believe. Anyway, but it's an island. It's a beautiful, beautiful island. In fact, we almost moved there a few years ago, but we ended up going back and staying in Singapore instead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it, is like, it's not big, right?
No, it's very small, and
So
it's an island. So it's tropical. Water is like the beautiful water. But in town feels like you're in the middle of Africa. So it's got busy markets. and local foods. There's tortoises that are like 100 years old. I remember that for some reason. That's a big thing there. But all around, kind of like, so I think is it St. Louis, the capital? I think that's the major city there. I think that's the name of it. But it doesn't really matter what resort you are. They're all kind of dotted around the outside. And it's the only place I've seen in the world where I only ever saw one traffic light. Like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was like outside of the city. We're just in the middle of palm trees, and all of a sudden there was just like a one random traffic light, which was really odd.
Oh, that's hilarious. So just looking at the clock again, and I know we've barely scratched the surface on places that you've been, and we may absolutely have to do this again down the road at some point. But before we start heading towards my final 5 questions for you, is there anywhere else that you like would be remiss if you didn't share some stories or experiences from anywhere else that you've been?
I think you have to, in your time, you have to go to Ireland once in your lifetime. I think Ireland is one of those places that I didn't realize I loved it until I went back. Like, I went the first time, loved it the first time, but went back again last year, went to Donegal, so drove all the way from Dublin up to Donegal. And for those who don't know where Donegal is it's not, so you know how you've got Northern Ireland and you've got Ireland. It's not part of Northern Ireland. It's actually part of Ireland, but it's as far north as you can go on Ireland. So there's a line that you cross that's kind of divides the two places. And it's really bizarre because if you drive down it, like if you drive on the border, all of a sudden your eSIM no longer works. And then you drive back into the other side of the street, and then all of a sudden it works again because you're in two parts of Ireland. It's so bizarre. But I fell in love with the people in Ireland. Everyone is friendly. Everyone loves a drink. Everyone loves music. It's just my type of, I just loved it. I just love Ireland. I love the greenery and how beautiful it is and how nice the people are. I love the fact that you can have a sauna and jump in the ocean. It doesn't matter what time of the year. That is my new thing that I love doing, and I love that that's something I've taken away from Ireland that I do now. I think Ireland has to be on your bucket list. I think everyone's bucket list.
Yeah, it is on mine, and it has been for a long time. And it's sort of like I think my problem is, as I've learned about more and more of the world, it kind of keeps getting kicked down the road because there's other places that just seem more exciting to me.
Yeah.
But definitely want to go. My in-laws, my former in-laws have gone a couple of times and just told wonderful stories about being there. And matter of fact, my father-in-law, I remember him telling a story about being in a pub and just drinking some Guinness. And I want to say and he's a talker. He'll talk to anybody, and he'll strike up conversations with strangers, which I love. And somehow, I don't know if it was the proprietor of the pub there, like at the end of the night, they opened up a doorway and brought them down into the basement to another like private bar.
Yes, I love that.
And like sat there and partied all night or whatever, and and they're not even those type of people, but that's awesome that kind of thing can happen.
They do this thing where they close the bar, say it closes at 12, and they lock you in. They literally lock you in, so you party with them. I love it.
That's pretty cool, actually. So it sounds like, and that one thing I didn't ask you specifically, but I know, like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast episode, that when you solo travel, it's easier for people to be approachable, I guess, for people to want to come up and strike up conversation with you. I'm guessing that you're the type of person that even if someone isn't coming and striking up conversation with you, you're the type of person that would strike up conversation with others. Yes. Am I right?
Absolutely. I do love a chat.
Do you have any stories or experiences that you can recall of just like having a conversation with someone and it turned into something more, or maybe even someone you kept in touch with because you just really hit it off, or anything like that in your travels?
Actually, to be honest, I think because of the fact that I have social media, we have social media in this day and age, the amount of people that I have met on a plane or on a bus or on a train or whatever, and I've kept in contact with. And there's been many times where I have, like on social media, said, you know what, I'm in this little town called Chattanooga, and all of a sudden someone will message me and say, oh, I'm here too. Let's meet up. I can't even tell you how many times it's happened, at least once a trip. And I love that about social media. And I love that about my community is that I feel like we know each other, even though we only met briefly on a plane ride or met, just randomly in a restaurant, or I'm always getting people's Instagram handles. Yeah, Facebook, just because I like keeping in touch, and you just never know where you're going to. I met a guy actually just last year on my way to Malta on that ferry, and he just messaged, he's a Canadian guy, he just messaged me the other day actually and said on WhatsApp and said, "You're not going to be in Europe this year, are you, by any chance? Because I just need I'm just wondering, I'm going to Barcelona. Do you have some hotel?" And so I sent him some hotel information. He's like, "I'm hoping we can meet up somewhere." It's stuff like that. That's why I do what I do, because I meet so many great people.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I love it. And I love you're at least growing up in the States, your parents tell you don't talk to strangers. And at least when you're traveling, I say talk to as many strangers as you can. I mean,
Yeah.
don't talk to ones that give you a bad vibe or look a little shady or something, but find the right people and talk. And we've talked about this on the podcast too. Like when you go into these little shops in these little towns and stuff, talk to the people behind the counter, because a lot of times they're the owner and they're so proud of what they do, whatever their goods are that they're selling, and they'll tell you all sorts of stuff, and they'll just share stories. And that's kind of why I do what I do as well, as like just the story sharing to me is just so valuable and it means so much. But
Yeah, I agree.
so if you're good with it, let's again, we barely scratched the surface. I know I'm looking at this list that you sent me, and there's so many places that we didn't even talk about, but we'll do it again if you're good with that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we'll get to the final 5 questions, and feel free to expand as much as you'd like on any of these answers that you have. And if it spurs a memory or something that you'd like to share that isn't necessarily even part of the question, that's good too. So
Okay.
all right, question number 1 for you, Paula, is of all of the places in the world, and you already kind of mentioned one, and I'm gonna ask you to maybe think of a different one. Of all the places in the world that you've ever been, what has been your favorite meal experience that you've ever had?
Okay. Now this is going to be tough now because of what I've just told you about Japan that I've ever had. But you know what? I'm going to say, so for my 20th wedding anniversary, my husband surprised me and took me to Cancun to have our vows renewed. And that meal on the beach was probably the best I've ever had. It's where I fell in love with ceviche. It's where I fell in love with the Mexican just culture. It's where I fell in love with margaritas. It was that to me was the perfect, meal I've ever had.
That's so fantastic. I love ceviche, and I don't know that I can get a real good ceviche here in Pittsburgh, but one of my favorite things to get when I'm in a tropical place.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Okay. Question number 2 is difficult for some, and some don't have an answer, and that's okay.
Okay.
Question number 2 is, of all the places in the world that you have ever been, even if I came to you and said, Paula, here's a free trip, take your family or go by yourself, whatever, it's on me, go enjoy yourself, you would say, no, thank you, I don't want to go back there.
Oh, okay. That's hard. At the moment, like the way I feel right now at this very moment, probably India, just because I'm still not ready to go back. I think I was so sick that it really scares me to go back just yet. I think I will go back at maybe one day, but right now, the way I feel, probably India.
That's fair. And that makes sense. Yeah, I get it. Okay, well, flipping that 180 degrees. So, of all the places in the world that you have been, but I'm going to add a caveat. If you only get 1 or 2 trips left to travel in your lifetime, for whatever reason that is, what would be the 1 or 2 places that you absolutely have to go back to?
Okay, so it has to be somewhere I've already been.
Yes.
Okay, Mexico has to be one. I just love the culture. I've always been, I just love Mexico. I think that's going to have to be one. Number 2, that's hard. It's really hard. Maybe, you know what? Maybe the Maldives, because I love a tropical holiday and a relaxing holiday, and so the Maldives is pretty special.
Awesome. Good answers. Good answers. Okay. And question number 4 is, now you can think of places that you haven't been. Of all the places in the world that you've never been, Paula, but again, you only get 1 or 2 trips left in your lifetime for whatever reason, what would be those 1 or 2 places that you've never been that you absolutely have to get to?
It's a no-brainer. Antarctica for me. It's somewhere where my husband's doing the 7 summits of the world, so I'm holding off to go to Antarctica until he summits Antarctica, whatever that mountain is there, because that's when I'll go. That's my dream destination.
Has it kind of always been, or like, and why? Like, why is that a dream for you?
Yeah, I think because it's always been my destination that I've always wanted to go to, and I think it's because it's so different. Like, where else in the world where you get it off and you get in to see polar bear, well, you get to see polar bears in other places too, but where do you go where it's just so unique, where you've only got a handful of people that live there and they're only there for scientific reasons, and that you've got icebergs and animals, and I'm really big into animals at the moment. So there, and the other one is Uganda. That's top on my list. That's right up the top because I'm desperately want to go see the gorillas and the chimpanzees.
Wow. Yeah, those are very cool answers. And I have talked to a couple of people on the podcast that have been to Antarctica. And the one
Ah.
person that went actually for a ski destination, I believe he's been a
Oh.
couple of times to ski. And he said that just the calm and the quiet and the peace, and then seeing these massive icebergs and everything, he said it's indescribable how beautiful it is. So yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. Anything that's popped into your mind story-wise before we get to the final question? No pressure, just asking.
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, so question number 5, our final question, is a very easy one because you know what your answer is going to be.
Yeah.
Paula, where are you going? What's on your docket for this next maybe 6 months to a year?
Oh, wow, I've got so much travel happening. So I'm currently in Chattanooga, about to go to a conference, and then I'm off to do part of the Route 66. That's also been a dream of mine. So I'm really excited to do that. I'm off to Maine to do a boat trip. And then I'm off to Kazakhstan doing Silk Road. I'm going to Vietnam. And gosh, 6 months, I'm doing Morocco, doing Taiwan. I'm doing Italy as well. I think that's it. I think that's all I've got planned at the moment.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. It's just so wonderful. Someday I'm going to get there where I can do something that I can handle remotely and just be able to see more of the world, that's my dream. So awesome. Thank you so much for taking this time with us. And any final words, anything you'd like to say before we hit stop on the recording?
I just want to say thank you for having me. It's been such an amazing time. I just love travel. I mean, I can talk about travel for hours and hours and hours, and I can bore people to death. But anyone else that has a passion like I do of travel, they're always going to be a friend of mine. So if you're ever in any place that I am in, whether it's Sydney, Hong Kong, please come visit. I'd love to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll let you know when I get to Australia next year. So
Definitely.
yeah. And if you're ever in Pittsburgh, let me know.
Will do. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you again. Good luck with all of your travels that you have going on. And yeah, thanks again and have a great night.
Thank you. Bye.
And there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always. And I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site, and check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here and have a great day.